had. He had to make his skill, his ability, and his resources available for the work of God. And the same thing is true with you and me. There are so many of us who want to give God what we don't have, but God wants us to serve him out of what we already have. Go and bump your neighbor like you ain't afraid and say, out of what you already got. See, God wants to bring us out of passivity into participation so that he can do what he wants to do in this place. Now, I recognize for a Sunday night, that's a significant challenge, but I came all the way to from Richmond, Virginia to tell you that not only can it be met, it can be overcome. But it requires you to do three things. Can I drop it like it's hot and we'll all be out of here? Because the first thing it's going to require is that you believe the unlikely. Let the whole church shout, believe. Let me explain for a moment. God spoke to Noah about something that was highly unlikely. A flood covering the entire earth. You've got to understand that the area where Noah lived did not possess abundant water resources like Detroit. It was devoid of lakes and rivers and oceans. And to add agony to insult, it was a part of the world that saw almost no rainfall. God asked him to believe what he had never seen. And believing what you have never seen, watch this, requires you to stretch your imagination. Because the truth is, all of us tend to discount things that we ain't never seen. We are skeptical about things that have never been seen, never been done, never been achieved, and never been accomplished. Because according to our limited logic, if it's never been seen, never been done, never been achieved, and never been accomplished, it's not likely to be seen, not likely to be done, not likely to be achieved, and not likely to be accomplished. And therefore, we feel no need to attempt it, try it, believe it, support it, or invest in it, because while it is possible, it is highly improbable. Our idea of likelihood is limited by our experience, and yet God was asking Noah to believe something that neither he nor anybody he knew had ever seen. He couldn't ask his mama and him about it. He couldn't talk to his cousin him. He couldn't ask Baby and Fuquan. He couldn't talk to his homeboys or his crew. He couldn't talk to anybody about a flood, because nobody he knew had ever experienced a flood. And that meant he could only conceptualize it by faith, because he had no previous point of reference. If God had called upon him to do something with which he had experience, that would have only required that he remember. But because it was something that he had never experienced, that required him to imagine. That with this project, he could not remember backwards. He was going to have to imagine his way forward. And there are times when God calls on us to do things through remembrance. When God says, look over your shoulder and remember where you were, how you were, who you were, to remember how God met us and saved us, brought us and taught us. But there are other times when God wants us to dream. He wants us to imagine. He wants us to envision. And in those moments, there will be no previous point of reference, because where God is trying to take you has never been seen and never been done. Oh, somebody got to get that. It's not hidden in some past memory. It is lodged in a future revelation. Okay, let me help y'all to get this. Now, I should help you here, because God has already given us a national example of this truth. In that, after all, what the 2008 presidential election was really all about. Now, think about it for a moment. That prior to 2008, if you were around, and I know you were, prior to 2008, you know and I know that nobody believed that an African American, male or female, tall or short, rich or poor, would ever be elected president of the United States in our lifetime. And we didn't believe it because it had never been seen. It had never been done. It had never been achieved. It had never been accomplished. But God brought about what had never been seen, what had never been done, achieved, or accomplished, not through backward reflection, but through forward imagination.